so do bad as you would have seen this story everywhere, and we love to take the piss out of Mo, mainly because he's probably, but we delight also in the fact that he's actually lost to someone local, no one expected. So we asked Ellis to come on the podcast, and he said yes to work on the podcast. Ellis Cross, yay!
Thanks for having me.
I probably should have warned you I was going to say that actually before jumping you in it. I didn't know
you said yes to come on.
Caught me off guard. No, that's all right.
Yeah, how's this last? So we're what 8 days since your mighty victory. How's that 8 days been?
It's been crazy. It's been non-stop, but it's been honestly, it's been amazing. It's been incredible. The past few days have, like I say, it's been non-stop, and obviously it was a massive shock to people. So I think that's why, and it's almost like it made that story of the underdog beating the favourite, really, the David against Goliath sort of fairy tale, if you like. So I think it surprised a lot of the press, so they were kind of all over it and been very busy in sort of like various interviews and stuff. But the love and support since the race has been immense, and like the running community has obviously has received it very, very well. So I'm very glad about it.
And do you get the sense from the people who've been in contact, has this story gone truly global, or is it still mainly kind of UK press, European?
Yeah, massively. In particular, I think in Brazil, I've been sent so many message requests on like Instagram from like Brazilians, and like there's a word that keeps coming up, and it's like parabéns or something. I'm like, it must mean something. I haven't actually looked it up, but it must mean something in Brazilian, because so many of the messages have like got that in. And loads of Brazilian flags as well at the end of each message. So couldn't really understand it, but it must have gone somewhere. And I had messages from like Australia as well to say that it reached the news out there, and Turkey as well, actually, some Turkish guys. So I think it has almost gone global. I don't think it's reached every single country, but a fair few.
It's well known that Brazilians hate Mo. I think that's that's probably it.
That might be why.
Because how would you just before this race? What would you say if someone said, "What's your running background?" or "What's your running pedigree?" What would you tell them?
I'd say, it's been a while since I competed at international level, but I have competed at international level. So it's difficult to say. I mean, like a successful junior and under 23. In GB International, but obviously, struggled to kind of find my feet. It took a little bit of time getting used to kind of making that step up to the seniors. So I'd say, I was a successful age group athlete, that hadn't actually established myself on the senior scene.
And what happens in those years when you're kind of 17 to 23 and you're probably are you in contact with the type of people like agents and UKA and EA in the way that suggests you're on that route, or when does that trigger that you suddenly think I've now upgraded as such?
Not really, to be honest with you. I mean, moving to St Mary's was quite a big move for me. It was quite a positive move. It was either between St Mary's or going stateside on a scholarship. But St Mary's was where I gained most of my support, and I say it a lot to so many people, but honestly, the best funding out there for athletes, pretty much in those sorts of like ages anyway, it is student finance. Honestly, that goes quite a long way, and staying in sort of university or like college or whatever, in that sort of system, you get a lot more protection, and then it's a lot more difficult when you kind of step out of there and you realise, there's work you need to do. So because that was always a challenge.
Because when you graduated in, when was it? When you were 23?
Yes, yeah. 23.
And do you you mentioned your coach just before we were on here, but do you kind of target the races with a strategy of these are the races I need to prove myself in, or these are the times, or these are the people I need to beat in order to either attract sponsors or to qualify for championships? Like what is the strategy and what is the priority?
Yeah, throughout the age groups, it was definitely a target to make Great Britain teams essentially. So I've represented Great Britain at the European cross country champs, and that was always a target. Obviously, Liverpool being the European cross country trials, the Liverpool Cross Challenge in November. That was always like a target race. We'd always have like a set main races across the season, and then we'd fill in the gaps with other races that would kind of help, you know help towards the bigger picture essentially. But it was always throughout the age groups, especially looking at making Great Britain teams like the European Cross or the under 23 European track champs as well.
And did you get a sense that when you were looking around that people were catching up and people kind of starting to overtake, and what do you think the difference becomes between athletes at that age?
I think, I noticed it sort of, just kind of like coming out of the age groups, especially. I think those that went off to America, a lot of them had kind of like pushed on, some of them not so much, but I noticed it sort of like as a postgraduate mainly, sort of like, so after university, that people were getting a lot more stronger. And once people kind of find their feet almost and find a balance as a senior, really, that's when I realised is it sometimes just takes a couple of years to know what you're kind of up against as a senior, and what sort of training it requires as well to be able to compete at that sort of standard. For sure.
And do you think getting someone like St Mary's, they know exactly what the level is, or do you think there is almost competitive advantages between different universities like stateside or UK?
I think it's a difficult one. Like when you look at it, sort of like stateside versus the UK. But I think the UK, we develop athletes very well. But I do think there's massive positives to go in. Obviously, stateside, I think the racing opportunities and the way that you're kind of treated as like a professional athlete goes quite a long way, and it is probably slightly more, well, it is slightly superior than what you get in the UK, especially.
So then, when you came to the end of your time, how did you try and balance kind of work, training, and your future hopes?
Yeah, so that's what I did find quite difficult, and I do think it is difficult. Like I say, for a lot of athletes that are almost on the cusp of like, do they give 100% towards their athletics career, driving that forward to see if they can make it to essentially like the top or like the elite level or professional, or do they go down the route of a career? And it's always tough. And I decided to come out of university and try and find a balance between working and training, and it took a little bit of time getting used to, like I say, for a couple of years. But then you do gradually just kind of adapt to that sort of life. But obviously, in a dream scenario, it would be ideal to obviously just purely focus on your sport. There's no doubt about that. Having the time in the day to just put into being the best athlete you can be.
And what do you think would have been the difference to allow you to do that? Was that result? Was it funding from UKA, or was it sponsorship?
I think for me it was having quite a good employer, really. So I went into work for basically in the environment that's that plays into my hand almost. So I started working for Up and Running, who were extremely flexible and had a massive understanding of what it takes and how demanding the sport is. So very flexible in that sense of being able to take time off when there's races going on and whatnot. But then I also coach in local primary schools as well for Kevin Quinn under Real Runners. And again, he's another person that's been extremely flexible with me in understanding the demands of the sport. So I'd say for me, it was kind of like being quite fortunate in the sense I had good employers that looked after me and still do.
And what's that program with Kevin Quinn? I don't know it.
So it's basically we coach in local primary schools around like the Teddington, Twickenham, Kingston area, and we just coach an extracurricular athletics club basically from year ones up to year sixes. Obviously, coaching the younger generations basically, and I've been doing that for a while. It was sort of a job on the side whilst I was studying, and then I started doing a little bit more for Kevin as the years went on.
And would you go into
It's
their
good.
schools then, or would they come to?
Yeah. So we go into the schools and then basically have like, kids that sign up as essentially like an after school club,
Yeah.
as you'd know it, and coach in like the schools like playing fields, and the kids absolutely love it. And because of the area that we're in Teddington, like Twickenham, you get a lot of high level athletes that are coaching these kids, so they're very fortunate. They get a lot of support from a lot of across the board.
Yeah, it's just
They don't realise.
because Jody, is that because my assumption was that things like sports were just done by the school internally. I didn't realise you'd go out and actually hire in companies to help and individuals to help. Is that? Do you know if that's common across the country or?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it is. I think it might be different towards sort of like private schools and whatnot, but across like public schools, yeah, we're not the only like sort of provider, like external after school club provider. There are other clubs that go on and they come in like say like a rugby club or a football club, but some of it is done within the schools. They'll like partner up with certain groups and do it.
I think there's such little specialism. There's such little specialism in schools for that, and sport has always been the thing that's been cut. It's like along with art, sport, and so I think that is becoming more common. Actually, bringing in sort of external expertise and because there is a need for school children to actually master some kind of sport rather than all right, let's just do laps of the field, which is kind of what our school was like. We didn't have any equipment, so
just go out. Yeah, no, to be honest, I think it is crucial though as well, because that's where I started running. I was fortunate that my primary school kind of pushed towards doing local primary school cross countries, and started doing that and then finding enjoyment for it. I think schools are very quick to kind of push, force feed sort of like football or like mainstream of other sports, as opposed to things like athletics in general, like not just running, but like athletics. But the kids absolutely love it, and like I say, that's where I started to enjoy it, and still do today. Do you know what I mean? So I think it builds up fundamentals, and we teach them kind of their fundamental skills, like focusing on things like drills and movements that even if they weren't to continue running or wanting to do athletics, it's skills that they can take into later life anyway, and sort of learning like coordination and agility and so forth.
And can you see like the direct result of when someone's won a gold medal and they've seen it on TV, or when there's the Diamond Leagues on TV or the Commonwealth Games is on? Do you see the excitement change from sport to sport based on what happens?
Yeah, massively. Yeah, definitely. The the kids absolutely love it. I mean, like especially since obviously what happened on Monday when I went into the school on Thursday, every kid knew what had happened, and they couldn't believe it.
Well, you're like told you I was good. Told you I was good, kids. Come on.
So the kids, they came running over, like, because we do a register beforehand, and we always just sit and like wait for them to come out of school. Obviously, they've been in all day, and they've come running over. They've come running over, and basically they're just like, oh my God, Coach Ellis, did you really just beat Mo Farah? And it's
Did you wear your medal in?
Standard, yeah.
No, I didn't actually. I didn't. Oh, actually, no, I did. I did take it in. I took it into sport. It nearly got nicked.
So then, I guess, so going into this race, then where did you estimate your fitness, and what were your expectations?
So I knew that I was in good shape. Obviously, I never had imagined to pull off the sort of performance that I did. It genuinely was as much of a shock to myself as it was to everyone else, like the general public and the press especially. But I've just done a block. I've been I spent 3 weeks in Font-Romeu altitude training. Work giving me the time off to go and get a bit of training done before the summer track season. So I thought, this race, I'm going to go there and just use it as a bit of a springboard almost for the track season, and just get hard run out see where I'm at, and kind of go from there. So I've come in the top 10 previously, so I was thinking like if I can get anywhere near the top 5, for me, I thought that would have been like an amazing result, really. And to win it, I'm just still a bit shocked. To be completely honest.
So you're saying you're using it as a springboard. So not even an A race. You beat Mo in a training run, essentially.
A training run. Yeah, I wanted to. Yeah, literally, I had no real expectations. Like I say, I wasn't wearing my watch. I wasn't fussed that I wasn't on the elite start.
Yeah.
I was just like going there to race, and it just happened. I was like, I'm surely not still leading at this point, and then the finish line genuinely got closer and closer. I was like, he's not overtaken me yet. Where is he?
Yeah, because at what point did you actually take the lead?
I was pushing it on a fair bit of the race because, like I say, I wanted a hard run out. I didn't want to go there to sort of jog around in what could have become like a tactical race because at the end of the day, it was still the British 10K Championships. So, people wanted that title. And it was a competitive field as well. You take Mo Farah out of it, look at the domestic side of that race, and it was such a strong field, even without Mo Farah being like the massive name in there on the start list. So I was kind of like pushing it on for a fair bit. I think it's myself and Hugo Milner are on the front, and then Mo and Dan actually they decided to put a burst in at sort of 6K, and I just sort of tracked it, and then really started to push on from sort of 8K, really.
And did you, like, when you say you started to push on, like, does racing with someone like Mo there change your confidence, and how was he responding to you?
Well, this is the thing, is that like a lot of people have actually, a lot of the messages were kind of like mate, it's ballsy to try and take on the 4-time Olympic champion, like that, like surely. Like almost like a bit of lack of respect. I was just like, no, look, it's I saw an opportunity and genuinely just thought I'm going to try and take it. And you're racing someone like Mo Farah, who's renowned for his fast finish as well, isn't it? So obviously I was kind of like, if I'm going to do anything here, and I wasn't thinking I'm anywhere near the sort of level of Mo Farah, but if I'm going to really look at the tactics here, I've got to try and run hard anyway to run the finish out of his leg. And I feel like I definitely did that, to be honest. It might have been a different story if he was feeling fairly fresh, into that finishing straight.
And did you clock any reactions from the organisers, from the crowd, of people as they realised what was happening?
Yeah, I think it came as a massive shock. Like I say, I've been saying, I reckon people were probably thinking I was like a streaker or something, just on the course. What's this guy doing? Because obviously I told him I had my number on, and he's got obviously his name, but everyone knows Mo. He didn't have to have his name on his number. So obviously he was getting a lot of support, and everyone was like looking like, who is this guy? And honestly, I got to 9K, and I looked across to one of my friends who was at the 9K marker with 1K to go, and I was actually giggling. I was like, what is going on? Like, I was feeling really, really good, but I was like, why am I here? What is going on? It's baffling. It really was, and it was a surprise that I'd even made it that far into the race, let alone to the end.
And because you were within sight at the end. Like, did you turn around? Like, at what point did you think, I've got this?
Probably like 15 meters from the finish. To be honest, I was like, you can see it like on the video. I'm looking over both shoulders, seeing where he's coming. Even have to really try and like dig deeper to hold on. And I just like saw a little bit. I'd managed to get a little glance behind me and see that like there was actually a gap that's opened up. I've actually ended up winning it, because I didn't know when to kick either. I was almost like waiting for him to come before I then make my move, because I was like, I've got to have something in terms of reaction. So I was preparing myself mentally to make sure that I would be able to have some sort of reaction to go with whatever he's got to give, basically. But it didn't happen.
And what was the first thing someone said to you when you'd crossed the finish?
I actually looked across, and one of my friends had he'd ran like almost the last 100 meters. And Callum ran and Luke, they'd ran the last 100 meters with me, and I could just hear them shouting. They were like, Ellis, oh my God, what have you done? And I just look across. I was like, I don't know what I've done there.
It's like you're in trouble.
Think that's the same. Honestly, I thought I was. I was like, I've not followed the script here at all. Genuinely, I looked across and everyone was like looking at me like, what have you done? Who are you? Like, why are you here? So, yeah, it was a crazy feeling.
And did Mo come and have a word once he crossed the line?
Didn't say too much, to be honest. He kind of congratulated me on the performance, but as you'd expect, I could sense he was a bit disappointed with his run. But no, he was having a little bit of a laugh and a joke because what did he say? Yeah, we were getting on the podium and we'd been given like plates basically, like winner plates, and like first, second, and third all got a plate, but they went down in like size. So he was like, "Looks like you're eating the most dinner tonight." I was like looking at it. I think I eat the most dinner anyway.
I wonder if he's kept his plate, or whether there's like there's a bin somewhere in Westminster full of
smashed.
Smash. No, you see, yeah, mine's getting like hung up. It's getting polished every single day. He's probably eating off this, isn't he?
and
what does it?
The organisers,
there must be like a huge amount of pressure as a result of this, because essentially, the way that this has kind of been framed means that you could be the person responsible for basically killing Sir Mo Farah's career. How does that weight feel upon you and for it? Because it could.
Yeah, no, well, look, I know there's a lot more eyes looking my sort of way in terms of like what has he got to give in terms of potential, but I don't really feel it massively in terms of like the pressure. And the thing is, I actually thrive under pressure anyway. I actually quite like feeling sort of like nervous. If I'm not feeling some sort of like adrenaline or some sort of nerves before a race, I know there's something up, and I'm probably not going to perform to the level that I can perform at. So yeah, I've always liked it. I'm very competitive in like literally everything that I do. So
I'm just looking for the.
I think it could be part of your new angle. Could be part of your new angle, like sort of champion killer. Like you come up against me, just kind of. I think that there is an opportunity there to
especially with your surname as well. Like Mo dies on the cross. Can he rise again?
You're giving a lot of the press some free headlines there. It's very, no, yeah. Well, it's interesting. It'd be interesting to see obviously what happens, because I heard today that he's withdrawn from the Great Manchester 10K as well.
Had you signed up?
So
yeah, exactly.
Well,
I was
potentially going to go. I was potentially going to go there and for the rematch. I thought that would have been brilliant. To have another race off. But obviously, I'm racing on Saturday at Highgate, the 10K on the track. So
of course,
it would have been dependent on how I would have responded from running 25 laps. Of course.
And has other than the immediate like fun and the that huge press of this kind of next 10 days or so, has it led to some longer term kind of positives, would you say?
I think so. I think, well, most importantly, I can use that race as a massive, again, literally, as I said earlier, I was using it as a springboard anyway, but it became one of the biggest springboards I could ever have. So I'm going to hopefully, use it as sort of momentum, and I'm hoping it does kind of, help the future of myself. And I hope that it kind of like showed as well to people that I could have, some good potential running a sort of half marathons and marathons in the future as I sort of would transition onto the road, because I've never done a half marathon even, but it's something that I'm very much looking forward to off the back of that race,
And does it make you think?
How does it make you feel? How does it make you feel when? Oh, sorry, David.
There you go ahead, Jody.
Do you want to go? I was going to say, how does it make you? Right, so I'm going to say something. It might not make much sense when I say it, but At the weekend, I watched Brighton, and Brighton beat Man United 4-0. And when they talk about Brighton beating Man United 4-0, they keep talking about, oh, they shouldn't be losing to teams like Brighton. They don't talk about the performance of Brighton and how they were incredible. They just talk about how, kind of Man United have fallen. When they describe Mo and you, and they say, oh, beaten by a club runner, how does that make you feel in terms of like the effort that you put into it? Because sometimes it can come across as, it's Mo's lack of performance, and it's quite embarrassing to be beaten someone like you. How does that kind of make you feel? Does any of that kind of affect you or wash over you? Or I'm interested to see how that kind of perspective is.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's obviously being positive anyway. I do understand the kind of like, I wasn't a massive fan of them kind of like dragging his name massively through the dirt, just for kind of like press, because obviously I think what he's done for the sport as well, it has to be respected. So, it was one of those. I do completely know where you're coming from with that, and it did feel like people were kind of a bit like, look at that, like just as if like I'd just signed up off the back of like a night out, a few beers or something, and like, I'm going to run my first 10K.
Yeah.
I'm going to go and do a 10K and see what happens, and I've beaten Mo Farah. Do you know what I mean? Like this is years and years of hard work and dedication.
Exactly.
Which a lot of athletes, aware of how hard the sport is, and there's so many people that are out there working extremely hard, and it's easy for your everyday sort of person, your everyday members of the public to be like, just half an hour of his life, and it's like almost changed. But there's a lot of hard work that's gone into pulling off that sort of performance, and you almost wait years and years for a very good performance as well. Sure.
And how's it changed your goals and your kind of belief of what you can? From 2 weeks ago, what do you now see as realistic targets?
It's going to be interesting to see really what happens. Obviously, I'm going onto the track on Saturday to run the 10K at Highgate, so I'm in the A race for that, and it's a loaded field. It's going to be interesting to see how I go on the track, because obviously it's a lot different in comparison to obviously the road as well. They are very different. But I mean, I'm going to have to sit down and actually look at what sort of targets I actually have in mind. But off the back of it, immediate targets are obviously get the 10K out of the way on Saturday, and then sit down and look, see if the goalpost actually move. But then long term, we're looking at sort of a half marathon in October. I need to pick and choose one of those. So then I'm going to have to sit down after just to see what happens on Saturday, really, and then goals and stuff might change from there, depending on how well that goes.
And do you now think road is where you'll be, or can you see yourself trying to get back into the cross country, GB teams, or the back on the track, or?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, cross country has always been quite a fundamental aspect of my physiology, basically. So I find it crucial to do that. So definitely not completely done with cross country. I'm sure you'll see me run across country again. But the road is what I see kind of like the long term future being, really. Like I say, but again, it's still a bit of the unknown. So there's obviously still a question mark there as to whether I can perform over a half marathon or a marathon. But I'm excited to do it. Really, I'm excited to see what I can do over those sorts of distances.
And have you got a message for Mo if he's listening?
No,
he's not listening. Just he's not.
If this is being played out in court.
Yeah. You never know.
Well,
thank you so much. Have you got any other questions, Jody? Because I feel we've covered it.
No, the other thing was I have one last question. You kind of answered it already, but I'd just be interested to hear what you think about it. Is that do you feel any pressure from this as well? Because I suppose you don't just want to be known now as the guy that beat Mo. You have to almost like push on past this to get your name back again. When people talk about it. And so do you feel any of that pressure at all? You think, I don't want this to be like my crowning achievement. I need to do something that really puts me on.
I do. I do feel a little bit of pressure off the back of it, but I also think very positively about what I can achieve. So off the back of that, I do think that's not going to be, that's it, a complete one-off. Do you know what I mean? I completely believe in my ability and my potential. So I'm thinking very positively about what I can kind of do after that sort of performance on Monday. So I'm just going to use that as positives going forward. Most importantly, and hope to chunk away at those times, my personal best across the summer, and then look to run fast on the roads again in the future.
Well, amazingly good luck with that. I hope the form continues, and we'll be watching from afar and supporting from afar. I'm sure some people will come up and say hello at the night of the 10Ks, and when you get your next scalp, let us know and we'll get you back on.
Definitely. Very much look forward to it. Very much look forward to it.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Ellis. Yeah, I love that story, and really, really lovely guy, really fun story, and there's no downsides other than for Mo, obviously, but it just shows you how the fine line between success and not really, because he's right on the edge of being one of the best in the country. And even when he, looking at his power of 10, he went out to Portugal this year and he came third in the European Champion Clubs Cup cross country, which I assume is a pretty damn senior. He's won part of the Southern Men's 12 stage relays, so he's right up there. And it's amazing actually that you can be that level without necessarily being as big a name. Well,
it's all profile. It's all profile, isn't it? I guarantee if you had someone, what we need an incredible student, like graduate or whatever, who's incredible at running but studies marketing and brand. That's what you need. Like, don't go and study sports science or physiology or anything like that. Study marketing, because it's all about your profile. Like, this is so typical of me to be like talking about this, but I do think that if you can develop your personal brand in it, like, because those results are so kind of close, I think you can, you could probably do really. We've had quite a lot of Olympians and potential Olympians who have had a shitload of press in the past, and they have never come close to winning anything, or never come close to it, but they've just been they're brilliant. No one can ever predict who's going to win things and not when they get into like the heat of battle and the sort of like the cauldron of the Olympics or anything like that. But certainly in terms of profile, but that's why I kind of asked the question about how it kind of feels when like when you do have all those achievements, and then the press narrative is very interesting. It's just to talk about and a club runner, just a club runner, because the thing that we didn't talk about because it wasn't quite relevant was the amount of times in the press that they mentioned the fact that he had to pay for his own entry and he had to get the train there, as though getting the train there was somehow like every other elite runner gets their own like chauffeur driven limo or something like that to the start of a race.
He lives in Teddington,
in London as well.
2 stops.
I know, and like everyone gets public transport.
We could take the train than to get a car. Yeah, bizarre, but I guess I'd imagine you though there's an element of you like, well, it's you just understand it's a better narrative, isn't it?
Everyone
absolutely wants a 0 to hero, rather than, you don't really want the story of someone who's really talented, who's trained for like 15 years of running, but we just haven't heard of him, and they managed to beat Mo Farah. I mean, it's not quite got that Disney Hollywood ring to it, is it?
I do think why I was really interested there. Well, no, but what was really interesting was, and I think this is a good point, about the athletics in schools thing, which I wasn't expecting to hear about this at all. But it is so true in schools how bad athletics is. Because I remember, there was such a popularity around team sports, and I don't know what other schools were like, but our school was terrible. Like there was no kind of training for running was just running. And the distance didn't mean anything. When we did like javelin, we literally threw broomsticks because that's all we had. It sounds like pretty awful, but I was athletics was the thing that I really liked, but because all the focus was on team sports, there was never anyone to cultivate it. There was no specialist, understanding. We had some hurdles, and occasionally you do that, and so I think it's quite encouraging to hear that schools are recognising that and actually thinking, because surely it kind of starts from there. And I do, and that's really interesting that there's a programme like that, because I've certainly heard about that in terms of, bringing in rugby clubs and like football clubs and all, because, there's all that potential scouting network type thing. But the fact that they're doing that for athletics, I think is great, because there's just I'm surprised some schools even have school fields to be able to do it on as well, considering like the amount of sell-offs and everything.
Well, not all of them do, and actually that's probably the biggest obstacle is not having someone there to actually do a bit of coaching, because a lot of the sports and athletics are relatively easy for people to take part in, and even the equipment for a lot of them isn't that complex or expensive or hard to store. But you've got to have a good groundsman who can actually create either have a sandpit or create the lanes for the sprints or the 800. So that can't be an easy job, actually creating a track on grass that is the right length and the lanes are the right width, things along those lines. So I imagine that's probably the skills gap that is the issue as much as having coaches. But do-batters, what do you think? Who else should we be? Well, I've got no questions after this. It was just lovely. And if there's any guests you want us to... I was going to put a question out,
which other giants of the athletics world should Ellis bring down next?
Yeah, exactly.
Just keeps doing that. Just does that every time you see.
And how should he celebrate? Like, what would you have done to celebrate?
Do you know what?
What would you have
when
done
I saw
that beating Mo Farah?
When I saw that picture of him crossing the line with Mo there, do you know what the first thing that sprang to my mind was your suggested Fast and Furious, like turning around and like giving the finger just before the finish line, and just going over backwards.
And done instead of the mobile, he should have done like the cross and just held his hand
cross
up and just come up with his own move. The cross. You've been crossed. But do-batters, are there any guests who... This was obviously a responsive request for an interview, but are there any other guests you'd like us to interview in the future? Then message me, david@badboyrunning.com. Trying to get Mo on, actually. I think chances of that probably less after this interview. But...
Do you think so?
We did meet him at the running show at the weekend, and I did seem to intrigue him when I told him I was Somaliland marathon champion. He's like, what? Mogadishu? And I left him wanting more, so I'll try and entice him in. But any other suggestions, do get in touch. And please do review us if you've liked this episode, and subscribe, because the reviews really help with our credibility. That helps us get on guests like Ellis, who might not have heard of us previously. Jody, anything thrown in the mix?
No, if you want to join the conversation, head over to Bad Boy Running on Facebook, answer 3 questions, and jump in there. You can buy some merch as well. store.badboyrunning.com, got plenty of it. You can show off that you're a do-badder to all the other reprobates who are running around the place.
And we may be having shorts on the way. Proper shorts.
Oh, there's a tease
really
tease to listen to.
Proper design.
I know, we've changed. Well-made merch.
Yes, I don't know how much they're going to cost. Probably a bit more than the usual, but they'll be worth it, because I'm going to make some caffeine bullet as well, because I want them on my buns. So thanks for listening, guys, and we will see you next time.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.